This will be a brief tutorial for making a 3-channel video in Blender. Blender is both a 3D modeling program, a video editor, 2D animator. I don't even know how many things it does. It does so many things. You should be able to follow this tutorial even without prior experience using Blender or other video programs. However, this is a specialized tutorial, so it will not cover many of the basic fundamentals that would be useful if you do plan on doing future video editing in Blender. So anyway, let's jump right into it. So here, when you open Blender, you'll probably see something more or less like this and wonder, how is this helpful? This isn't a video editor. This is some sort of 3D modeling program. There's a default cube in front of me. What do I do? So the first thing we will do is we will just go to File, New, and here you can see we have the options for General, which is what we're looking for, 2D animation, sculpting, VFX, and video editing. So now we have an entirely new persona. The first thing I wish to do is to bring my files into Blender. So there's a few ways to do that. You can use this navigator here. I can click on Movies, Trip Demo, that's not right, Trip Demo Files, and here are my videos here, and I can drag them onto the timeline. I can also simply just go straight from the Finder or Explorer if we're in Windows and drag the files directly in that way too. So I'm going to take this first video and drag it to channel 1. And now I will repeat. I'll take the second one, drag it to channel 2, and the third one, drag it to, I guess, channel 6. The numbers don't really matter of the channels just yet. And just for entertainment, we can drag it out of here too. So you can see it does the same thing. It doesn't matter where you drag it from. Now, here we have our basic timeline. These numbers here are indicators of frames, not seconds. And here we have our videos. So one little thing that can help you in case you get lost, we can drag around using scrolling or moving this bar, which is pretty common to video editors. We can also grab the ends of the bar to kind of zoom in and zoom out. If you accidentally find yourself having navigated into a strange abyss of nothingness, you can go to this little view menu right here, click on that, and choose this option, Frame All. You can also hit the Home key if you've got that on your keyboard. And now, there we are. We can see everything framed. And that's probably a good thing to click right away to frame all. So we can see right away, we dragged in 3 files, but we see 6 stripes on the timeline, and they're all different lengths. So the blue stripes are our video files, and the teal stripes are audio. And for this tutorial, we're not going to do anything with audio, so I'm going to remove these. In Blender world, you delete things not with the backspace button, but with the X key. So you just press X on the keyboard and it disappears. If you're using a Windows computer, which has a backspace and a delete key, the delete key will also work. So now that we have our 3 videos separated, we are going to set them up into a triptych layout. We're also going to need to trim the length of these videos and adjust the overall timeline, but we will get to that. So to do that, I will click on each of these in order. And by the way, I've made an effort to keep this somewhat organized, so I have my video that I plan to be on the left, at the bottom, right at the top, middle, in the middle. So on this one, I will use the add command, which is common in all types of Blender, all Blender workspaces, I mean to say, which is Shift and A at the same time. So Shift A, I get this menu, and in this menu I'm going to choose Effect Strip, and I'm going to choose Transform. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat that on the other ones too. Shift A for Add, Effect Strip, Transform. Shift A for Add, Effect Strip, Transform. All right, so now you can see we have these purple stripes over our blue ones, and those represent the transformational effects that will happen. So now here we have a little menu with the adjustments for the effects strip. So we're going to simply scale our videos to be 1/3 of their original size. Rather than scaling on the XY axis and having to type the number twice, we will click this checkbox for uniform scale, and then we will change it from 1 to 0.33, which is about 1/3. And there you go. Now you can see that we don't see the video behind it. So before we move on from here, we're going to move down in this menu, and here we have compositing and then blend, which is set to replace. We're going to change the blend to alpha over, and now we can see what's behind it. Alpha is kind of means a similar thing to opacity or transparency in Photoshop. So now that we have set that, we are going to do the same thing for the other effect strips. So now I'll click on the effect strip that corresponds to the middle video, uniform scale, 0.33, blend, alpha over, and for the third one, uniform scale, 0.33, blend, alpha over. Or because this one's at the bottom, we could also set it to alpha under, but just for simplicity, I'm just going to set them to the same thing. They'll just be on top of, that one will just be on top of nothing, or over nothing. So now I will go back to, I'll go back to the top film strip, and I remember that this one is the video that's going to be on the right-hand side, so clicking on that effect strip again, the purple stripe, I will go to position, and I'm just going to move it on the x-axis. And to do that, I can either type in a number here, I can hover over it and sort of scroll to the side, or another thing that can be helpful is you can click on this little button here and then click and drag if you have issues with the nuances on your mouse. So there, I'll just drag it to here. Now, I do want to be precise here, so I like the way this looks, so I'm going to turn off that little box there. I'm going to double click and highlight that number, and Command-C, Control-C on Windows, just copy that number right there. So now the middle video should stay in the middle, but the bottom video should be on the left. So on this one, I'm actually going to go to position X, and I'm going to do Command-V or Control-V and paste that number in. And it looks like nothing happened because I've slipped that video behind the one on the right. So to push it to the left, I'm just going to change that X value to a negative 33.48, and now you can see our videos there. And we could slide it around, of course, and we could also just set them to be 33 minus 33. I think that that extra little value will give us some nice spaces. So you'll see this kind of has a checkerboard pattern behind it, which is kind of means transparent. But when we export the final video, that will just be black, so we don't need to worry about that. So now if we go down to the bottom of our timeline, we can hit play, and we can see that our 3 videos are playing together. So in terms of just basically putting a triptych together, we've done it. You'll notice that this little play, that the little player line, it stops before it gets very far. That's because as a video project, this is set to only be 250 frames. And we will address that, but we don't need to address it just yet. So even though when you play, it will only scrub to the end of the timeline, we can actually move this timeline by hand just by clicking and dragging on it, and that will get us to different parts. So I like the way this looks overall, but I kind of just want this to be a scene. So I don't want the camera to be moving in these different videos. So now we need to trim our videos so that the camera is still. In this case, I was taking video footage of a little underground spring I found by dropping a waterproof camera into the water. So, we don't need to see the footage of it dropping into the water. I just want the footage of it down there planted in the sand. So I'm scrubbing through the footage here. I'm just looking at the middle clip right now for when all the movement stops. So I can see the camera moves around. Whoops. See the camera moves around a little bit, and then here it's in position. So now I'm going to trim this middle video so that all the stuff with the camera moving is edited out. So to do this, I click on the actual video strip, not on the transform strip. So to move things around in Blender, rather than clicking and dragging, we actually, or can we do that? Oh, we can do that, never mind. So we can click and drag. So I'm just gonna click at the end of this clip, and you can see that the ends of these strips, if you look where the mouse is pointing, have kind of a dark bar. I'm gonna click at the end of the strip and just drag it right to where that timeline starts. And I can see that because the video will kind of appear right when it hits the line. So now I have it set so there's no camera movement in that middle video. So I'll just scroll over to here. And I'm going to check the other end of the video. So here I can see at the end, I come in and grab the camera and pull it out. So I'm going to go back here where the camera's not moving. Click on that video strip, the blue one, not the purple one, and drag it in. And you can see the purple strip is just an effects strip, so that it's kind of like an adjustment layer in Photoshop. It'll grow and shrink with the video. And there we go. So now we're going to trim the right-hand video, which is the top one. So now I will move through, scrubbing through this, and I think that even after I take my hand out, yep, it moves again. So there we go. It looks like it's still there. So I'll drag that strip right to where that begins. And now I'll drag over here, wait until the camera pops out. So it looks like no movement here. So I'm using this blue line kind of as a temporary guide, and I'll drag it right to there. Now I want all my videos to start at the same time. So here we have our fast forward rewind controls on the player. I will hit the little arrow pointing left towards a line to bring our player back to the start. And now I will drag the middle channel until it appears. And I'll also drag the first channel until it appears. So now we need to just set our video to be the proper length. So we can see that if we were to export this right now, the video would actually end right about here where it restarts. So we do want it to be a little longer than that because we have more footage to work with. We could go ahead and trim these all down so they're all the same length, and that is what you would do if you were working in Adobe Premiere or iMovie or something like that. But in this case, it's not really going to matter. We just want to set it to the number of frames for export. And there's a few different ways to do that. The simplest thing we can do is I'm just going to move the timeline to where the videos end. And I can see there's this kind of black line here that represents where the frames end. And now up here, we have our output settings. So you can see it's set to, the resolution is 1080p. That's good. And then we have our frames start and ending. So it starts at frame 1 and it ends at 250. So I can just click and drag on that 250 number. And I can see that line expanding in my timeline right until it hits the end of that clip. So now I've brought it all the way out to here. And I have it set to 30 frames a second. You can change that, but we're just going to leave that. So now the starting point is where the videos begin, and the end point is where the shortest video ends. And because we're just chopping the whole thing off here for export, I don't even need to bother trimming these other clips down. Now, I think I must have already edited the left one because that one doesn't seem to need any trimming. So I'll just leave it as it is. So now we are ready to export our file. And to do that, again, we want to go to this menu, our output menu in the top right-hand section here. And if you have trouble finding this, the tab that represents it looks kind of like a picture coming out of a printer. So we've got it. Our resolution is good, 1080p. You could go higher resolution if you wish, but we don't need to. We just want to go with standards. Here, under this tab that says output, is where we need to set some things. So the first thing is, this is just going to send our video to some weird temp folder. So we want to click on the folder here, and now I'm going to navigate to trip demo. That's where I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call it Blender video trip demo. Not a great name, but whatever. And I'll hit accept. So now I can see that it's going to name it Blender video trip demo, and it's going to put it in the folder that I want it to go in. Right now, the file format it's set to is PNG, which is a type of image format. So I could export it this way, but it's just going to export a bunch of images, 722, because that's how many frames there are. So I'm going to click on here and change this to FFmpeg video, the last option. Now, we're not quite there yet. There's another little menu that drops down under here called encoding. And here for the container, it's got this matroska. We don't want that. We'll just click on that and choose MPEG-4, standard container, video codec H.264. That's standard video codec. YouTube and stuff uses that. That's great. Output quality, I'm going to just leave it at medium. Everything is good here. We're almost ready. We're almost done. Now we go to the top right of the screen. There's this option render. We'll click on that and choose render animation. And now you can see the video is rendering. Once the timeline has gotten to the end, I can close this little render window, open up Finder or Explorer, and navigate to the folder trip demo, and there we go. There's our video.